1B, reading, responding, and outlining. This is by far the most intensive of our sections. We're going to look at assignments with the calendar this time, and we have 5. We are not going to have 5 again. When you are turning in final drafts of papers, I tend to minimize the assignments as well. So this is the worst, okay? So once we get through this, and it's not the worst in terms of horribly difficult as much as it is the worst in terms of being busy. But I couldn't get rid of any of these. It's really hard to narrow down a class that much. So we are stuck with it. We're doing 2 discussions. We're looking at annotated bibliographies, and we're looking at essay preparation and discussing and sharing some ideas. We are taking a quiz on the first of our short essays on personal narratives. This one is Matt de la Peña's Sometimes the Tough Teen is Quietly Writing Stories. And it's actually an excerpt of that, so you're not reading a huge amount there. And then, of course, we'll have the quiz on it to help us navigate what we should be paying attention to. Because I don't know about you, but it's hard sometimes to decide, what was I supposed to get from that? So part of what we're doing with the annotated bibliographies and the quizzes is checking out for what kind of details will help us later. Then we have 3 submitted assignments, all by Sunday. We have our narrowing our topic, so we are starting that process of what does my paper look like? What could it possibly be about? And the reason I have you turn this in is because it gets a conversation going between you and I. Then we are practicing some MLA and quoting and starting an outline. So let's go look at some tips and tricks and ideas. So the reason we look at an annotated bibliography, and the reason I want you to have a discussion about it, is that there are so many ways to interact with texts. This is just one, and even within it, there are multiple possibilities. There are so many things to look at, and I want you to see what everyone else is doing. So you know how that quiz is on Matt de la Peña's short story? Well, we are reading it for the assignment as well. So again, I want you to think about how all of our assignments are not just out there alone. When you get to that quiz, that's your second chance to read the story. So I'm combining things and mashing them together and interweaving them because I don't want you to ever feel like, oh, I just did that assignment. It's out there by itself alone. It was pointless. No, it's always going to be connected to all the things that we're looking at. So we're going to read that. We're going to look at the writing guide, some details in our writing guide under section 14 and 1.4. Remember, if it's big, like chapter 14, we're skimming that chapter. We're looking at the pictures. We're looking at the subtitles. Our goal is to learn how to make notes on important themes or arguments, or even writing techniques as we read. We want to apply some strategies and explore and share with others. So you may find some strategies you love here, or you may already have some that you love to do. So what you're going to do after you've done that reading and you've annotated Matt de la Peña's short work, you're going to take a picture of it or take a video or share a screenshot. Maybe you have a file to share because you used a PDF and you marked it. However you want to do that, however you want to mark that story, you're going to share an image of it with us. And then you're going to talk about that experience. So what catches your attention about what someone else did? What kind of notes did they leave? What kind of things did they do? Here's a picture of one example, reading with your pencil. So you can have sort of a set type of notes that you're going to go with. I actually forgot to post my examples here. They are in the course shell, but I always read with my pencil. That's my favorite go-to. And I don't follow this particular itinerary, this particular mapping system, but there is a system within it. And it's my system, and I use my pencil for it. I don't like dark colors, and I start coloring if I highlight, so I have to use my pencil. But I show you what that looks like for me. I love to write definitions in the margins. I can't sort of memorize those and then come back and apply them. So I tend to take a definition, write it in the margin, and then read it into that sentence until it makes sense to me. You'll see a lot of definitions in my work when I'm reading. So explore what works for you, share it with the rest of us, and of course you're preparing for your quiz. The next discussion is about essay preparation. So we're looking at that Unit 1 essay, and we're going to start talking. Review. Remember from the last section where we're already moving on, what is the purpose of it? What kind of genre is it? And we want to make a list of some important or interesting realizations in our lives, things that have been formative for us. So perhaps what are some important experiences that you've had? What did you learn from those experiences? How have they impacted your life? And then we are going to share a little bit about that and tell our classmates one experience that we really want to explore. I find that these can be tricky in that we can feel that there must be a set expectation, but I want you to know that some people are going to share what may feel simplistic, and some are going to share what may feel deeper, but all of them have value. I often think of a really silly moment in my life where I had the epiphany that the reason people say it's always going to be in the last place you look is because you quit looking because you found it. And for some reason, I had never pondered it. It never clicked. It never registered. And then epiphany, it clicked on why people said it. And it was just really funny to me. It was a formative moment of, oh, like, there's more to that than I previously understood. So it could be something really simple like that, something kind of silly and funny. Um, I still laugh every time I think of that because it was silly and funny. Um, it can also be something really deep and evocative that happened to us. So we have in this section been reading Matt de la Pena's short story, and he talks about reading and what sort of exploring stories means to him. We've also started to look at Anne Lamott's shitty first drafts, and we've gotten her idea of sort of what the experience of writing is. So we're going to keep reading about some of these memoir ideas of what a personal narrative looks like. So right now, you are basically taking the spaghetti out of the pan, you're throwing it at the wall, and you're seeing what could stick. So we don't know if we are going to pick any of these ideas. We're throwing out ideas, we're brainstorming, we're saying what kind of things have sort of made us see the world a little bit differently. And that can be a massive change in our expectations and experience, or it can be something really tiny. But either way, we have been slightly different after that moment. And it's a great chance to discuss it and explore. And of course, our quiz, remember, we want to keep it beside us. We have been looking at it and annotating it and exploring it. But as we go through the quiz, I'm pushing you towards certain directions, and you get to see if you went in those directions as well. But remember, we're looking it up, we're exploring it, we're trying to process the ideas. Then we're going to have 3 submitted assignments. Remember though, they are all part of the whole. They are all going to build your essay. They are not just throwaway assignments, they're going to connect. So we're looking at that Unit 1 essay. We're looking at the idea of, what is a thesis? How do I evaluate a thesis? And then we're going to share our response to the thesis statement handout. So as you look at that, look at what you want to respond to, and also respond to the evaluating thesis statements handout. Again, we're looking for like a paragraph. You're reading it, and it's another way for you to connect with the material and connect with me, because all of this is about me getting to know you and seeing where you are excelling and where you're doing wonderfully, so you don't really need me, and where you are hitting issues or challenges so that I support you and shore you up. Then we're going to practice quoting. So this is where we read Anne Lamott's short work. And she talks about that process that we're going to go through. First drafts are not meant to be good or beautiful or really see the light of day. They are the kind of things that an author will often have someone assigned to burn all their work in progress, because it's a mess. It's a hot mess. It's crazy. It's wild. It's all the stuff that may work, and it absolutely may not. So we want to get that idea under our skin as well, that what we're throwing there, that spaghetti of ideas that we threw at the wall for our discussion, maybe it sticks and it leads to our paper, maybe it doesn't. But regardless, it's going to build us toward that place where we come up with our key idea. So you're going to upload like a PDF or hopefully a document. Documents are best for me. And you're going to focus on one theme or topic or quote from Anne Lamott's work. You're going to make a quote from her. So you're going to practice that idea of putting a quote. You're going to maybe have a paragraph that summarizes what you read and shares a quote. It could be a paragraph about that quote. Anne Lamott says X, this is what I'm thinking about that. It could be a paragraph about how you relate to the concepts. Regardless, we're going to share one paragraph at least, and we are going to share a quote. This is practice. I don't expect everybody to ace this and have all the MLA experience, all the quoting experience, all the citation experience. No, we are practicing. This is, again, our first shot at this. And so we're looking at the idea of what our first draft ourselves is going to be like. And we're practicing quoting because all of that is going to go into our first draft. Finally, our outline. Again, outlines are they're about us individually. We're looking at what helps us, what supports us. I always do an outline. I'm going to switch to this screen. This basic outline right here, I always do this. For some reason, writing this down on a sheet of paper makes me feel like I've started my work and it helps me get going. It doesn't stay there. Sometimes that's all really that I do of an outline. I fill in the key points here and then I start writing and it goes. But the bigger my work is, the more I want to focus, and sometimes I'm just not connecting with an idea really quickly. And so again, I want to add lots of detail. So it might grow and grow and grow. I could increase the introduction bullet point to have multiple subpoints. I could increase it even further to have more subpoints. I like to put examples and quotes in there. But what I want you to see with this idea is that outlines are about us individually. They're about my personal process. They're about my personal project that I'm working on. So even though I have sort of a general structure for how I like to outline, I do it differently based on the project. And that's what I want you to start thinking about. You're going to look at that assignment. You're going to look at this idea of what an MLA paper is, and you're going to start throwing some stuff at the wall to see what sticks. You may have an outline that absolutely suits your first essay and you build completely from this. You may have an outline where you toss everything from it because it got you to brainstorm and think, but it just didn't work for your final project. Most of us are in the middle. We're going to keep some, we're going to enhance some, we're going to delete some, we're going to alter some, we're going to play with those building blocks. I like to think of it as sort of getting the Lego out and dumping the whole container on the floor. We all have different strategies, right, for how we're going to play with it from there and how we're going to build from there. But we have to get the Lego out. So we're going to throw it all out there. We're going to get some content, and then we are going to play with it. Picasso said, "I'm always doing that which I cannot do in order that I may learn how to do it." And that is what we're doing with all of these. We are practicing, we're trying, we're exploring. Don't look at perfection. Look at tackling it and saying, well, what could that look like? Because that gives you and I a place to discuss, talk, and explore. So no perfection, just trying, just testing the waters and seeing what we find. I can't wait to see your ideas and get to know you through these essays. Okay?